Thank you to our sponsor, MBA Growth Partners.
Welcome to Studio 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, CEO of the nonprofit Village, which provides shared space and capacity building programs for charitable organizations. Our show features nonprofit organizations that provide essential programs and services. They're charities that the IRS has designated a 501c3 because they provide a public benefit. And in most cases, your donations to these nonprofits are tax deductible. We're a proud partner of Montgomery Community Media, your public access resource that provides a variety of information on programs relevant to Montgomery County. I've invited Arianna Ross, the Executive Director of Story Tapestries, to talk with me today. The mission of Story Tapestries is to empower, educate, and encourage children and adults to integrate the arts into all aspects of their lives. Arianna, welcome to Studio 501c3.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you because, of course, we hear quite a bit about Story Tapestries. So why don't you start by just telling our audience a little bit about your vision for Story Tapestries and how it's really grown over the last couple of years too.
Oh my goodness, it really has. We've now been around for 11 years. Last year, we reached 352,000 individuals and families through virtual programming.
Wow.
During the pandemic, it's interesting when people talk about our vision for the organization. I always come back to sort of a core value that almost grew exponentially during the pandemic. And really, one of our core values is helping people to have access to space, have access to arts opportunities, have access to education, and have access to programs. And so we really sort of developed and we really look at always how can we make sure that our programs at all times helps people to find their voice, tell their story, advocate for their needs, support them in getting their education. And during the pandemic in particular, we started looking at how our programs intentionally supports individuals' mental health.
That's really important. Let me go back because there's one thing that you mentioned. You said education and access, but you also mentioned space. What do you mean by space?
So space is interesting, right? So people can think about space as the room that you are in, right?
Okay.
So that's space. So having access to a room, now virtual, and now a lot of us use a virtual room, so that is space. But it also is space can also be that you feel that you have the space to tell your story. You have the space to express your ideas, that in a classroom you matter. And so for many kids, they sometimes always feel like their voice matters, that the teacher doesn't care about them, even though the teacher probably absolutely 100% does. So developing the tools where the teacher can help a child to feel like confident and brave inside their classroom space so they feel like they matter as a part of the space.
I see. Okay. That's very important. So, and that makes sense to me. Can you go back and talk about the mental health piece a little bit?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we realize, so you know how there are things that you do as a not-for-profit and you just do them naturally, right?
Right.
You're like, this is what we do, this is how we get it done. And we partnered years ago with the Conflict Resolution Center of Montgomery County, and we got our artists trained. We also partnered with an organization previously called Aspire, and our artists were trained in trauma-informed practices of teaching. But we started to really examine that the work that we do with youth and adults provides them an opportunity to develop skills to self-regulate their emotions, to express their ideas, and to connect with others. So we've been integrating into all of our programs the opportunity to give art and literacy kits or art and mental health kits to both seniors and children. And within these kits are mindfulness practices, activities, art supplies, all kinds of things that the whole family can do. And what has been reported back to us is that every time they get their kit or their packet, the whole family stops technology for a little while and just gets involved in doing. that it gives them an opportunity to connect with their kids in a structured way at home that doesn't feel overwhelming at a time when a lot of things feel overwhelming.
That's really powerful. And it's something that a yoga instructor that I really like to practice with always talks about, making sure that you are a human being, not always a human doing, because we do so many things. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
very powerful.
Oh,
So that's a way that you're actually using some of your programs to build community.
yep, absolutely. So one of the things that we like to say, you know how people talk about, oh, I'm an arts performing organization or arts
Mhm.
presenting organization. One of the frameworks that we use for Story Tapestries is that we are an arts service organization.
Okay.
That we look at how we can utilize the arts to play a role in solving the social determinants of health, play a
Mhm.
role in education equity. So the arts are the tool that we use to support essentially the community in building community. I know that's the word community many times,
Mhm.
but we found that the name tapestries came from the idea that you weave businesses, education, the arts all together. You have a stronger fabric that can hold us together.
Mhm. Okay. Wow. And doing so in a fun way. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of fun in what you're doing. So that bringing that levity, I think, also brings people to a different place. Would that be correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting. You'll see people who are ready for levity and people who want to sort of go deep and deal with some of their issues at a deep, deep level. So I almost feel like we have the opportunity when we bring in an artist into a
Mm.
community to really take people to where they want to go,
Okay.
to
All
support
right.
them where they're at. So it's not about necessarily oh, let's go and let's,
Right,
bond
right,
in
right.
this way. It's really about, well,
Yeah.
what are your needs? How
Good.
can we
All
support
right. Well, listen, I'm going to take a brief break, but when we come back, you'll hear more about how Story Tapestries and their creative community programs help bring that community together. Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. We'll be right back.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text to emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie. Nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to bed.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Studio 501c3, your window into nonprofit programs in Montgomery County. I'm talking with Arianna Ross, the Executive Director of Story Tapestries. So tell me, so we talked a little bit about the spaces and this effort to help people find their voice. Can you talk a little bit more about this finding your own voice and how powerful that can be for a person?
Absolutely. So one of my favorite examples and favorite stories is I remember speaking with a mom at a performance at an event. This was pre-pandemic, and but I see it even now in the virtual world, and I know that when the virtual world is shifted again, we'll see it again. Where this mom said, thank you. I never knew that my daughter was a poet. I never knew that my daughter had something that she needed and wanted to say. And I remembered that young lady. We had worked with her in middle school.
Mhm.
And all we'd done, it was an after school program. And we'd sort of created this place where they could, tell stories, they could express their ideas, and we demonstrated to them that they were valuable and that they were important. Simultaneously, we started doing more and more program with seniors.
Mhm.
And a senior who was in her 90s came up to me and she said, "My voice is not important. Why are you asking me for my story?" And I said, "Well, actually, I would love to hear your stories. Just share them with me." And she shared about how she was a nurse during the time of polio. Another example of a senior who shared with us that he was actually Martin Luther King Jr.'s chauffeur.
Wow.
And when we showed up at this workshop, he grumbled and complained. His friend made him come, and why was he there, and blah, 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 blah. So, my team kind of pulled him in the hallway, and we're like, well, just talk to us one-on-one.
Right.
And he did. And I think in all three cases, the individuals felt for a moment like they mattered.
Wow.
And the same thing happens when we're with a teacher. We do a lot of professional development for teachers. It's extremely important to us that we, create the opportunities for teachers to be able to incorporate the arts into their practice as a teacher.
Right.
And I've had countless teachers.
Yeah, let me interrupt you for just a second because I want to get this in. We've only got a couple of minutes left. You actually are a performer yourself.
Yes, I am.
How, very quickly, give me the 30-second. How did you go from performing to moving into helping others craft their story through these programs?
That is an easy answer. My mother, when I was a kid, was part of the Friday morning music club, which when she went into schools and performed and told stories and taught. And so I tell people it was in my blood. Being an educator was in my blood. And when I realized I loved performing and I loved telling stories, but I loved doing it with youth and families. And then I realized that, I could only do it places where people could afford to bring me in. The PTA could afford it. And that really bothered me. That wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be able to perform anywhere. And so I started writing grants. And then someone said, "Why aren't you all a not-for-profit?" Oh, no, that's too much work. So we became a not-for-profit because we truly wanted the programs. And this is 100% the truth. Our programs are 95% free.
Yeah.
Or at very little cost to the individuals we work with.
Yeah, that's good for the viewers to know that. Yeah, and they're very there's such a variety of programs. So I see a lot of your social media. I believe I'm on your email list. So anyway, but listen, we're actually out of time. One last quick question: volunteer opportunities. Are there opportunities for people to volunteer? 10 seconds.
10 seconds. You can either volunteer virtually or in person. We have both opportunities. You can deliver art supplies, or you can tell stories, or you can be a behind-the-scenes technical individual. We need them all.
All right.
Contact us.
That is great.
We'll align you with the right spot.
Right. All right. We're putting up some information on you also. I really want to thank you, Arianna, for telling us about the power of arts programs that you're running. I think this is incredible, and really do thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. During the pandemic, we started to give our viewers hugs by just saying, from my heart to yours, I really appreciate you.
Very good. For more information on Story Tapestries, visit their website at storytapestries.org. You'll also see them on the screen. I'm Kim Jones. Thanks for joining us today, and see you next time on another edition of Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media.